Hello, everybody. Great to be with you on this Monday. Let's give a date. It's fun to do that. Monday, June 4th, 2018. The whole thing's surreal. I mean, they made a movie called 2001. It seemed like that was really in the distant future. We're now in 2018. There's a generation arising that doesn't remember 9/11. That is, it was a non-recollection. It's history. That's the way it works, my friends. Great to be with you. It's exciting. It's wonderful. It's effervescent. It's incandescent and the apotheosis of okay, forget it. Great to be with you. So listen to this. This is the giveaway. Prager University has sued Google, which owns YouTube, because they censure some of our videos purely 100% based on politics. And if you look at the list of the 40, are there still 40 that are censored? I mean, is that about it? And how many videos do we have up? About 340? No, not many? Not that many? 320? Okay. Oh, well, I really missed by a lot. Whew. Oh, man. Okay, I'm sorry. Oh, wow. 320. And you look at them, the list, it's Alan Dershowitz, what was it, the legal case of Israel's founding? Or Victor Davis Hanson was on for a while with the history of the Korean War. It's supposed to be... You're supposed to be on their, what is the listing? A restricted list. You're supposed to be on it for pornography or violence. All right. Anyway, it is what it is, and it's not good. But it gets worse. This story, this shook me up. This should shake you up. Google is not in moral people's hands. This is a very real problem. New York Times. That's another story I want to give to you. Excuse me, my friends. It'll certainly be the last pages in my stack. It is. Ready? Google will not renew Pentagon contract that upset employees. Google hoping, from the New York Times this past weekend. Google hoping to head off a rebellion by employees, upset that the technology they were working on could be used for lethal purposes, will not renew a contract with the Pentagon for artificial intelligence work when a current deal expires next year. Google's work with the Defense Department on the Maven program, which uses artificial intelligence to interpret video images and could be used to improve the targeting of drone strikes, roiled the internet giant's workforce. Many of the company's top AI, artificial intelligence researchers in particular, worried that the contract was the first step toward using the nascent technology in advanced weapons. About 4,000 Google employees signed a petition demanding, quote, a clear policy stating that neither Google nor its contractors will ever build warfare technology. For much of its existence, Google had a motto, don't be evil. I now am suggesting that Google adopt a far more accurate motto, and that is don't fight evil. Google will not participate with the United States of America in defending America. That is how low they have sunk intellectually and morally at Google. These are fools, my friends. These 4,000 employees are moral idiots. They will not help America develop the artificial intelligence needed to knock out drones that come to kill us. Do you understand what I'm talking about? And they go home and they think they're moral. They're children. They're children. And, of course, they're leftists. Leftists, by definition, do not think morally clearly. If they did, they wouldn't be leftists. They might be liberal, they might be conservative, they might be a whole host of things, but they're not. You can't be a leftist and think morally clearly. There is no exception to that rule because leftism is not morally clear. We won't help develop lethal weapons. What if the enemy is a resurgent Nazi country? Would they still hold that? You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking about the moral cocoon, or the immoral cocoon, in which so many of these tech people in Northern California live. They talk to each other and they make each other feel good about each other. Oh, are we moral? See, when your moral compass is broken, you still have a yearning to feel moral. Get it? That's the problem. I want to feel good about my moral conscience. But I don't have a moral conscience that is functioning. But they don't know that. They only know that they want to feel moral. So they won't participate with the United States of America. For as far as they're concerned, America is Iran or Russia or North Korea. America is no more worth defending than any other country. That's what the Google employee said. This has not even come from the leadership. They, of course, caved in, needless to say. There's no moral backbone at Google. But it's from their employees. This is bottom up. This is truly, to me, as important as the Supreme Court story is, and it's a very important story, and I covered that the first hour. Ruling in favor of the right of an American to say, I'm sorry, I can't participate in a gay wedding because my religion doesn't recognize same-sex marriage. Wow, that was a toughie. It wasn't a toughie. It's why I went 7-2, the verdict. But as important as that is, this is just as important. I want you to know what the elite, the moral idiots that comprise so much of the elite in the United States of America and the Western world, to not participate with the United States in developing technology to defend itself. Now, they'll go elsewhere. Google's not the only place. But what does it say about Google? There's got to be a way, and I don't know the way. I really don't. There has to be a way to have a rival to Google. Google is hurting the cause of liberty on earth. Google's motto is don't fight evil. And remember, when you don't fight evil, you'll fight the good. So while they won't fight those who want to destroy America, they will fight Prager University. You see? That's a perfect example of the great Talmudic phrase, which I've often cited here. Those who are kind to the cruel will be cruel to the kind, and vice versa. Those who will be cruel to the kind will be kind to the cruel. That's that's by the way, now that I think of it, that's another slogan that Google might want to adopt. We are kind to the cruel and cruel to the kind. This is what is produced by our universities. This is what exists in the Bay Area, in the tech part of California. It's really scary. It really is scary. To not help the United States of America develop the artificial intelligence to protect itself against incoming attack is considered moral. But and aside from everything else, we still get the idiocy of the left loves America. They won't protect it, but they love it. 1-8-PRAGER 776-877-243 776. You are listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Prager rules and restrictions apply. Dennis Prager here. I was imprecise about one aspect of my report on Google. It was about targeting our drone strikes, the artificial intelligence that they were working on, not targeting enemies' drone strikes coming to us. It doesn't matter. The point is the same, but I want to be absolutely accurate. 4,000 employees signed a petition demanding a clear policy stating that neither Google nor its contractors will ever build warfare technology. That means then that they're opposed to America having a military. I don't think people understand how destructive Google is to the United States of America. They don't understand because we all use it. I use it. But its monopoly, essential monopoly on searches around the world is now a moral problem. It truly is, and I'm sorry to say that, obviously, but it is. All this power concentrated in the hands of fools is not a good thing. The most important thing to understand transcends Google. There's a civil war between the left and its values and America and its values. If you deny that, you're a fool. Sorry, don't mean to insult you, but it's a fact. You're living in a make-believe world. If this isn't a smoking gun, there isn't a smoking gun. 4,000 Google employees are against helping America's military establishment. Okay, is that clear? And they have listened to them. Imagine if they'd have said, "I'm sorry, but the United States is the greatest defender of liberty on earth, so it's a good thing to help its armed forces." Are you out of your frigging minds? Go and work for the enemies of the United States, because your petition you signed only helps enemies of liberty and enemies of the United States. You 4,000 fools. That would have been gorgeous. It would have been one of the great days in American history. So they all would have resigned. I don't know where they would have gone, but they all would have resigned. And then Google would have said, "Hey, we're progressive in, all of these social policies, but we're not fools. We understand that the United States of America needs defending, and we understand that liberty on earth needs defending. And nobody defends it better than the United States. On whom will we rely? Germany?" I read to you last week and tweeted out the staggering weakness of the German military, to the extent that it even exists. 6 of its 7 submarines are idle. 7 submarines. If this doesn't disturb you, then if this doesn't move those of you who are on the left to wonder, to be intellectually honest, say, what? Well, let me think. Is it a moral position? Is it really a moral position not to do any intelligence work for the United States of America, or specifically artificial intelligence work? I assume that would apply to all countries, right? No country should have people working in artificial intelligence help their military. That's part of the reason they hate Israel. Israel actually defends itself. That really bugs the left. In light of that, there's another interesting story in the Wall Street Journal. Younger evangelicals waver in support of Israel. That's the topic of the article. Generational split reflects concern over Palestinians, spurring outreach by some churches and groups. Lifeway Research in December did a survey of more than 2,000 people. It's an evangelical polling organization. And here, the Wall Street Journal article says, only 58% of evangelicals ages 18 to 34 hold positive views of Israel, compared with 76% of evangelicals over 65. The shift is part of a wider split within the evangelical movement, as younger evangelicals are also more likely to support same-sex marriage. That's mind-blowing. That's just mind-blowing. An evangelical supporting same-sex marriage. Tougher environmental laws and other positions their parents spent a lifetime opposing. You know why, ladies and gentlemen? Israel is the great litmus test. See George Gilder's video for Prager University. George Gilder is he an evangelical or just a Christian without an adjective? But he's just one of the great thinkers, period. He's deeply influenced me. I've been reading him since college. And he holds that Israel is just a litmus test. See how people react to Israel, and you pretty much understand how their moral compass functions. And it's absolutely correct. So what does this all prove? One thing. My statement that I've made to you 100 times. In the last 100 years, leftism has been the most dynamic religion in the world, far more so than Christianity or Islam. And, here's the and, leftism has affected Judaism and Christianity far more, or influenced Judaism and Christianity far more than Judaism and Christianity have influenced the world. If younger evangelicals are getting anti-Israel and supporting same-sex marriage, by the way, they mentioned tougher environmental laws. That's another, I'm telling you, that's one of the ways in which the left gets to you, because everybody cares about the environment. I mean, if you live on Earth, you care about the environment. I've never met a human being who didn't care about the environment. The question is whether you regard the environment as this holy thing, as it were, unto itself, which is pretty much how the left views it. What a change. What a change. By the way, the reason to support Israel, forget Bible, is just moral. It's the only state on earth targeted for extermination. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show. Hello, everybody. I'd like you to hear something that is, I'm laughing because it's so preposterous, but so unfortunately significant. Stephen Hayward, resident scholar at the Institute of Governmental Studies at Berkeley. You wouldn't expect a non-leftist, let alone a conservative, to be there, but apparently he is. In any event, he has a piece in the Wall Street Journal, and he writes, a good indicator of why climate change as an issue is over. He thinks it's over. And I wonder if it is. I don't know if it's over. These issues, the hysterias of the left do have a half-life. That's true. Remember, you may not remember, but in the Reagan era, there was a massive hysteria over homelessness in America. Like it started when Ronald Reagan got elected. Anyway, it turned out that the guy who led the campaign made up the numbers. He acknowledged it to Ted Koppel on ABC News. And and died shortly thereafter. I don't know if it was suicide or homicide, suicide or death by disease. But by the way, talking about that, I do want to talk to you about the famous suicide that just took place. There was something I read that I wanted to share with you. A good indicator of why climate change as an issue is over can be found early in the text of the Paris Agreement. Early in the text. This is astonishing. The non-binding pact declares that climate change, this is the key, this is in the Paris Accords that happily President Trump pulled us out of. Climate change must include concern for, quote, gender equality, empowerment of women, and intergenerational equity, as well as the importance for some of the concept of climate justice.
That's in the Paris Accord?
Yeah, I know you're as shocked as I am that this is in the Paris Accord. Nobody reads it, obviously. They just think it's, great action to save the earth. That's what Barack Obama signed on to. That's right. Climate action. You know why climate action must include gender equality, empowerment of women, and intergenerational equity? Because it's all one package. It's all meaningless. It's all the radicalization of humanity on behalf of giving people on the left meaning that their lives otherwise do not have. One of the many ways to understand leftism is to understand it is a pursuit of the thing people want more than sex. More than sex. Even men want more than sex. They want meaning. It is possible to live a life without sex and have a happy life. Not easy in my view, but it's possible. No, in all seriousness, it is possible. Of course it's possible. But it is not possible to live a happy life without meaning. This is Viktor Frankl's genius, brilliant book, Man's Search for Meaning. It is one of the 10 that most influenced my life, and it's up there at DennisPrager.com if you're curious what those books are. The left is pursuit of meaning outside of family and faith and nationalism. Family, country, and God gave most Americans meaning through most of American history. For the left, they do not give people the same amount of meaning. Now, I'm not saying family is unimportant to anyone on the left. That would be an absurdity. But it's not essential. Look, the very fact that women are told you won't get your meaning from family, you will get your meaning from career is a perfect example. So I'm going to save the planet. I mean, why Tom Steyer has an empty soul. So he fills it with, I will save the planet. I mean, can you think better of yourself than thinking I will save Earth? You realize what your self-image must be? I am going to save the Earth. But it's predicated on an enormous idiocy that Earth is at risk because people are emitting carbon dioxide, which is the food of life. But gradually, it's dawning on people, where exactly are the calamities that Al Gore predicted? Where are they? They're coming. That's exactly right. What is it I once said? If a religious person says the end is near, he's called a kook. If a secular person says the end is near, he's called an environmentalist. I should tweet that out. You agree with that? You got that? This is mind-blowing. So that was in the Paris Agreement. Here's another one from the Stephen Hayward's piece in Wall Street Journal. Another is Sarah Myers, M-Y-H-R-E. If I asked you to spell Sarah Myers' last name, how long would it take you to come up with M-Y-H-R-E? Never, correct? If I said you will not be given food until you spell her last name, so you would die. Well, the years you can't go without food. Even you can't go without food for years. You would be the dead martyr. You would no longer be the living martyr. M-Y-H-R-E. All right. Sarah Myers' address at the most recent meeting of the American Geophysical Union, in which she proclaimed that climate change cannot fully be addressed without also grappling with the misogyny and social injustice that have perpetuated the problem for decades. Misogyny has perpetuated climate change. So obvious. I can't believe you have this quizzical look.
It's just men are responsible.
Nah, exactly. Yeah, misogyny. He writes, climate alarm is like a car alarm, a blaring noise people are tuning out. That's a good analogy. That's an amazing thing. Let's try to get her address. I want to read the actual words. Climate change cannot be fully addressed without also grappling with the misogyny and social injustice that have perpetuated. That was given at the American Geophysical. Do you realize how they're poisoning the sciences? That was the point that I was making. Anyway, it is the anniversary of D-Day. Thank you, Mark, in New York City. These guys who raised their fist, I have an interesting question that I've been thinking about for a while. It was just crystallized in an IM from my wife. See, let's say you have a cause in mind, and your cause is you believe that the police are largely racist. All right? Let's say you believe that. I don't, but let's say you do. Not only are they racist, but they act on it and shoot blacks because they're black. All right? You believe that. All right. Okay. Still, if you raise your fist or you kneel during the national anthem, it's not enough to be on behalf of a cause. I mean, after all, if a pro-life player kneeled, I mean, why wouldn't he, right? The law of the land is Roe v. Wade. So for a pro-life person, America is as morally disappointing as it is to a Black Lives Matter person. Does that make sense? So why wouldn't everybody who has a cause that they think America fails by not stand? Who would be left standing? When you refuse publicly to stand for the national anthem and the flag, you are making a larger statement than just your cause. You are saying, in my estimation, the United States is a moral failure. That's a very important thing to understand about what is happening here. It is not merely your cause because, hey, I believe that the United States fails in areas 1, 2, 3, and 4, of course. But in my estimation, the United States of America is far more a force for good than a force for bad. So, of course, I will stand for the national anthem despite any disappointment that I have. So please understand the contempt for America that is inherent in not standing for the national anthem. It's not just your cause. You are saying that it is the American flag is unworthy of being stood for. That's a big statement. That's why the president has contempt for these people, and he's right. I have contempt for these people. Your moral barometer is broken. Your moral compass doesn't work. You are assessing something that is essentially about as good as it gets on earth. You are the beneficiary of phenomenal luck being an American, you football player, playing a game and getting paid and getting fame and getting honor. And you are deciding that this country's flag is unworthy of the minimal amount of respect of standing up for it. That's why we have contempt for the players who do that. Whether they're black or white is insignificant as whether they prefer a yellow or green ties on any given day. There's something wrong with your conscience that you deem this country so crappy that it is unworthy of having the flag stood for. That's why we have contempt for you. You're listening to the Dennis Prager Show.
The world keeps revolving. They say the next big thing.
So what happened in England? In England, there are gangs called grooming gangs. I don't know how they got the name. I guess you groom young girls to be gang raped. I guess that's what it is. Done almost exclusively by Pakistani immigrants or the children of Pakistani immigrants. It is hell for the girls. I mean, it's truly hell. I mean, there are degrees of sin and degrees of hell. This is one of the worst. When we come back, I'll explain.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
By the way, let me just handle a call to save time. I won't take it, but I'll respond. Phil in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, California, says, I'm wrong about Wikipedia. They don't write their own articles. I never said they wrote their own articles. I said a leftist hijacked my page, and Wikipedia allows it and does not allow corrections. I've been announcing that for over a year. Wikipedia, which I have sent money to for many years because I use them a lot, has now revealed itself when it comes to these issues. It's as irresponsible as Google. If you want to know the history of the French Revolution, you'll get some great stuff in Wikipedia. You want to know every Haydn symphony and the key it was written in? Wikipedia is unique. I still use it. But when it comes to contemporary political stuff, certainly from my case, and I've heard from other conservatives, leftists take over the pages, they insert lies, and Wikipedia does nothing when you try to change it. Nothing. They just let it be removed. In England, you may have heard about this. A guy was standing in front of a courthouse where there was a trial of some Pakistanis, and I only mention this because that's all of these gangs of organized rape of girls, young girls, not prepubescent, but young teenage girls. All of these are done, to the best of my knowledge, by almost in every case Pakistanis. And you can't talk about that in England. That's the reason they let the girls be raped. The British authorities allow girls to be raped in Britain because they don't want to go after the gangs lest they be called racist. This is what I mean. The left increases cruelty on earth. That's what they do. Every time Charles Blow calls Donald Trump a Nazi, he makes Nazism less evil. The left increases cruelty on earth. Just remember that. They think the world of themselves. That's the amazing thing. While they increase cruelty and evil, they think that they are the moral giants of our time. Anyway, Tommy Robinson was arrested. He's a British political activist. This is Douglas Murray's article. He founded the English Defence League. The English Defence League was a street protest movement in Britain whose aims could probably be best summarized as anti-Islamization. It emerged in the town of Luton after a group of local Islamists barracked the homecoming parade of a local regiment returning from service to Afghanistan. I interviewed Tommy Robinson 5 years ago after he had left the EDL, having, by his own admission, failed to keep extremists, including actual neo-Nazis, away from the movement. Indeed, he was once charged with assault for headbutting a Nazi sympathizer who wouldn't leave an EDL, English Defence League, protest. The controversy around him continued. In March, Robinson was suspended from Twitter, where he had almost 500,000 followers. The social media site, which merrily allows terrorist groups like Lashkar-e-Taiba to keep accounts. You hear that? Islamic terror groups can keep their Twitter accounts, but Tommy Robinson can't. Decided that Robinson should be suspended for tweeting out a statistic about Muslim rape gangs that itself originated from the Muslim-run Quilliam Foundation. Every month, you hear this? This is one of the most respectable. He himself is gay, by the way, and I only mention it so this is probably one of the white heterosexual males. No, he's a white gay male, as it happens, and a courageous man. He's done a PragerU video, Douglas Murray, and his book, The Strange Death of Europe, I've recommended 20 times. Every month brings news of another town in which gangs of men, almost always of Pakistani origin, have been found to have raped young, often underage white girls. The facts of this reality have now been confirmed multiple times by judges during sentencing and also by the most mainstream investigative journalists in the country. Most of British society has turned away in a combination of embarrassment, disgust, and uncertainty about how to even talk about this. Anyone who thinks Britain is much further along with dealing with the taboo of grooming gangs should remember that only last year the Labour Member of Parliament for Rotherham, Sarah Champion, had to leave the shadow cabinet because she accurately identified the phenomenon. That's the United Kingdom in 2018. Hey, everybody, this is my weekly... She didn't know what to do. I have the best-selling author and filmmaker Dinesh D'Souza online. Hi, Dinesh.
Dennis, always great to be on the show.
Well, it's always great to have you. Were you aware of the pardon in advance, or did it take you by surprise?
Well, I got, Dennis, the call from the White House, which is to say from the president the day before, to give me a heads up. But that was a bolt from the blue. I was literally working away at my desk, and an operator comes on and just verifies it's me and then says, hold for the President of the United States. And 30 seconds later, Trump is on the line. So we talked about it for 5 to 6 minutes. And then he said, I'm going to be signing the pardon in the morning and putting the word out, in fact, by tweet. So I knew the previous day.
But the previous day was, as you said, a bolt out of the blue.
Yes. I did know that Senator Cruz of Texas was pressing Trump to consider a pardon. And, in fact, Cruz had even told me that the president seemed very receptive. But he also warned me at the same time. He said, look, this is a complicated process. There are administrative and legal reviews. The White House counsel is involved. So he goes, it's not a done deal until you get a call from the president himself. And so, I did not make a great deal of it until I got the call.
What does this do positively for you?
Well, I think, Dennis, as you know, although this has been an ordeal for me, I've been through the worst of it. I did my 8 months of overnight confinement. I went through some preposterous psychiatric counseling, a so-called rehabilitation effort that seems to have failed. And none of this discouraged me from being outspoken or even fearless in speaking out. So if that was the Obama administration's intention, that didn't really work. But they were able to hang this big felon label on me, in a sense, weaponizing my opponents to say, oh, don't listen to this guy, he's a felon. And they were able to sort of constrain my productivity. So, for example, I have been for the past 3.5 years doing 1 day a week of full-time, 8 hours community service. Now, if I was a normal guy working in a bank, I mean, I couldn't hold a job because you can't tell a bank every Monday I got to do 8 hours of community service, and so I can't do normal work. I think all of this was intended to sort of disable me, or at least to sort of chain me down a little bit. And then, of course, all the other things. I need judges' permission to travel abroad. It's difficult to get certain types of insurance. I obviously can't vote or own a firearm for life, even after the probation period is over. So I think what this does for me is it just lifts that burden off my shoulders. You can say it fully restores my American dream. And so I couldn't be more elated about it.
I would like my listeners, in a nutshell, if you would, to tell them what this is all about, because I think your entire trial and sentencing is another moment to be worried about the direction of the United States, that we could have such politicized governmental agencies prosecuting Americans. Tell my listeners the great felony you committed.
My longtime college friend, Wendy Long, was running for the U.S. Senate in New York. This is in the year 2012, the year Obama was running for re-election. And I gave $10,000 to Wendy Long's campaign. And because I knew there was a campaign finance limit, but I felt bad because Wendy was struggling, was behind in the polls, I got this cockamamie idea, and I told two of my friends, hey, are you fans of Wendy Long? Okay, give her $10,000, which is the campaign finance limit, and I will reimburse you. Now, this is not allowed. This exceeds the campaign finance limit, which is $10,000 in this case. Now, normally, Dennis, in America, this crime is treated as an offense that deserves a fine or 100 hours of community service. At the worst, a misdemeanor. It is never prosecuted as a felony unless one of two things happens.
All right, hold on. Hold on. I want to know those two things. This is what he did, folks. This is what he did. That's the extent of it. Of course he deserved a pardon. We'll be back in a moment. I'm Dennis Prager.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.
Hi, everybody. Dennis Prager back with Dinesh D'Souza, who properly was just pardoned for as trivial an offense as I could think of. I've never heard of anybody serving time, so to speak, even though it was just an overnight facility, but being declared a felon for such triviality of $10,000 we're talking about. So you were saying, if you recall what you were saying, or what you were up to before the break.
I was saying, Dennis, that normally if you're not a chronic offender and if you're not doing this with a corrupt motive, so there might be people who bundle or use straw donors, and their real purpose is to bribe the candidate into giving them a position or giving them a tax break or getting some sort of a quid pro quo. Those cases are why the law exists, and those cases are prosecuted. But in my case, no such corruption was even alleged. In fact, as Wendy Long testified later, she didn't even know that I had done this. So there was no possibility of me deriving.
Wow, that is so powerful. Are you familiar with the name Chatwal Sant?
Yes, I am. I remember reading about the case about a year ago. If I remember, a New York case in a different district, but right in New York City. and an egregious offender. but an offender on the Democratic side.
$180,000 to Hillary and other Democrats. Not 10,000 extra, 170,000 extra, and got a tap on the wrist, slap on the wrist.
Yes, or Dennis, look at a more recent case, Rosie O'Donnell. Now, of the two criteria I mentioned, she did not have a corrupt motive. She was just giving out of, you may call it, leftist zeal. But she did exceed the campaign finance law in 5 separate jurisdictions, which really means that in theory there are 5 U.S. attorneys who could indict her. And she is a repeat offender because she did it multiple times. And yet, the same people who decried a pardon for me are not calling for Rosie to be indicted.
That's exactly right. See, this is why I wanted you on. Now I want to tell you I celebrate your pardon. That it means justice has been, or injustice has been somewhat undone, because we can't undo what you have been put through. You were, and the greatest frightening part is how did they even know that somebody gave $10,000 extra? Maybe we'll have you on a second time on that, but in any event, I just want to share my joy with you.
Dennis, I truly appreciate it, and yes, it's a wonderful day for me, almost a new lease on life, you might say, and I'm very grateful to both to Senator Cruz for raising it and for President Trump for doing it.
Bless them both. Thank you, sir. It is a good day for America. Happiness Hour coming up.
The Dennis Prager Show, live from the Relief Factor Pain-Free Studio.